Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's talk about time travel.
Let's talk about time travel.
Or at least...
We've talked about time travel before.
Yes, we have. We actually had a little time travel series back in the day. But let's talk about... I don't know if we should really just call it straight up time travel or just...
It's not really time travel.
Time anomalies.
I like time anomaly.
Yes, let's talk about a time anomaly movie.
No one actually goes to the past or comes forward to the future, but there's interaction between time periods.
Their voices go to the past and the future.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a time anomaly that allows that to happen.
Rather, radio waves go to the past and the future.
Yes, correct.
But this is a movie that it's been a long time since I've watched this movie, and I'm glad we watched this one because I forgot how much I enjoy this movie.
I completely agree with you. So it's been a long time since I watched this movie, and strangely enough, like I don't know, maybe we watched this together. If we did, it was once. This is like before the apartment.
It was once, yeah.
But I watched this movie fairly frequently after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember seeing it in the theater, and I had the old Snapcase DVD of it.
Uh-huh.
And I watched that at least half a dozen times and really enjoyed it. And and I was impressed with how much it held up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it came out in 2000.
It's funny, like Nicole came down at one point while I was watching it, and she's like, "Oh, I want to watch this also."
Yeah.
And because it had been since it came, like the first time she watched it, and she remembered certain aspects of it, and it's funny, she remembered most of it actually, because like it is well done. That enough of it, there might be pieces here or there that you kind of forget, but most of it actually comes back pretty easily. But it was still a really enjoyable ride to go back down again. Because there were a few scenes where like I kind of forgot about, and I thought it all acquitted itself very well. You know, and again, it's a movie about a time anomaly, right? So you have to suspend a little bit of disbelief, and you're gonna maybe not completely get on board with the as we talked about in our time travel series, right? You know, you can have discussions about
there are
physics of it,
so many
and the logic of
that.
it.
Yeah,
right. And so I can definitely understand with the how this is set up. We'll get into it about the changing of time. Does it work? Would it work that way, or would it not work that way? But it doesn't matter, because ultimately, at the end of this is really a movie about family, about fathers and sons, and friends and community. Not just fathers and sons, about community, and like just the bonds that people forge. And again, because that stuff does echo through time, and so it using its setup, it blends it all together really well through some really terrific performances.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because this is a very competently made movie with very competent actors.
And by the way, we've been talking for almost 5 minutes, and we have not even mentioned the name.
We have not mentioned the movie.
So maybe we shouldn't mention the title of this movie. Maybe we should just start talking about it, and people can guess what movie we're talking about.
You have to figure it out. No. That movie is the 2000 movie, as you said, Frequency.
Yes, Frequency, starring Jim Caviezel and
Dennis Quaid
and Elizabeth
Mitchell. There are two main actors, but yeah, Elizabeth Mitchell, one of her few film roles, one of her first film roles. And primarily she would do TV, and it's obviously when I watched this, I don't think I realized when she started on Lost that she was in.
I did not realize that either when I started watching Lost. I mean, she didn't come into Lost until the third season, but She also was blonde in Lost, and she's
She was well.
brunette
That was
in
the other
this.
thing, and it's a totally different hair color, and she's made it to look like she's lives in the 1960s and on Frequency,
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, I knew at some point along the way, like not long after she started on Lost, I found out that she was in Frequency.
yeah,
But Andre Braugher's in this movie.
yeah,
Noah Emmerich, who we discussed in our episode with Tim, with Miracle
yeah,
back in January,
yep.
he's in this as well. They're kind of our five kind of like main actors. But you know who else is in this movie? Michael Cera is in
A
this movie,
young Michael Cera, like a child Michael Cera.
acting acting nothing like Michael Cera.
No, acting nothing like Michael Cera. But yeah, it is a child Michael Cera.
Like you know
Got
how
to be like 10, 11 years old, somewhere in there.
you know how there was a younger kid, Haley Joel Osment in Forrest Gump,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well before he was in The Sixth
Yes.
Sense.
Yes.
That was still Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah. You still look at him and you see Haley Joel Osment. Michael Cera,
is-
when he was little, he sure he had some of the same features that he has now, but I almost didn't recognize him. If I didn't know that he was in this movie, I would have seen that kid and not thought that he was Michael Cera.
Not at all. Not at all. Very, very different. And I guess he is one of the probably it didn't really get a lot of screen time. It's like kind of one or two scenes compared to a few of the other like kid actors in this movie. But there's a few other faces that I recognize. The Sean Doyle's in this. He's
Mhm.
also one of the kind of the
Yeah, he's
main
also kind of
actors
one of
in
the
this.
mains.
The other name that comes up in this, where is he on here? It wasn't him. William, Melissa Rico was in this. Let's see, where is the guy I wanted to bring? Wasn't yeah, that's who it is. Jordan Bridges,
Yes.
who like I've never seen it, but Rizzoli and Isles,
Yes, I
the
have
TV
seen
show.
a few episodes of that.
He was one of the regulars on that. So,
Mhm.
and this is kind of an early role for him. But back to kind of our main, like this is an early role for Jim Caviezel,
Yes, it is.
right? This is after the Thin Red Line, which he was in as well.
But it is before Count of Monte Cristo.
And before Jesus.
Yes, and before Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
But-
But this is not our first Jim Caviezel movie because he is one of the fighter pilots
Mhm.
that's supposed to try to blow up Alcatraz when
Yep.
before Nicolas
Yep.
Cage saves the day
Yep. And The
in
Rock.
The Rock. So, but in that movie he has like one or two lines, and he's wearing
flight gear and a helmet, and
yeah.
So
Yeah, this is kind of one of his. This is more or less his kind of break out in a mainstream movie because The Thin Red Line is a Terrence Malick movie. It's not a mainstream movie that's gonna stick with a lot of people.
Yeah.
As much as I really respect Terrence Malick, but and this is our first Dennis Quaid movie.
Yes, it is. Which is kind of surprising.
Yes.
About that the other day. Like I'm kind of surprised that we haven't done a Dennis Quaid movie yet. I know we've talked about
Meg Ryan
doing
movie.
Some. Yes. I know we've talked about doing some Dennis Quaid movies, but we haven't done any yet.
We did one with his brother Randy Quaid.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. The words of my generation. Up yours.
He isn't, Dennis Quaid's slightly more famous than Randy probably, right? But he doesn't have the iconic scene.
He doesn't.
Where like that. So
yeah, Dennis Quaid doesn't have the iconic characters that Randy has.
No.
Because
they're different. They're very different though, because like
Russell Case.
Randy just looks Randy has that look where you can just
Yes.
create a goofy ass
Yes.
character.
Yes. Randy has that Clint Howard type
Yes.
look.
Whereas Dennis Quaid looks like Dennis Quaid. He has a
Yes.
nice smile. He's kind of charming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meg Ryan doesn't have to fake it.
No.
He's got a son, Jack, right? We haven't done any of his movies either.
Yep. Well, he
But
he
yeah,
really came onto the scene more recently, so.
he has. Yes, he has. So there's not as many opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
um, dive into some of his movies. But yeah, we talked about a few different Dennis Quaid movies. Inner Space, right?
Yes.
Was probably the one that we've thought about most to potentially do.
Mm-hmm.
Though it might be fun to do Jaws 3D.
It might be. I have thought about that one. Yeah, he plays a a grown up Mike Brody.
Yep. Yep. Anyway, so yeah, but frequency, man, this goes back and well, let's talk about this, right? So the director is one that we've actually done before
Mm-hmm.
last year, Gregory Hoblet, who
Mm-hmm.
directed Fallen, right? And this kind of goes back
You know
to
what? I wasn't thinking that he had directed Fallen, but I can
yes,
see it.
you can
This
see it, and again, like
this movie has a lot of the same story beats as Fallen.
has a lot of the same story beats, right? There's a slight supernatural. Well, I mean, uh, Fallen obviously is a much stronger supernatural,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hold on it.
Yeah.
But they both involve cops,
Mm-hmm.
serial killers,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a lot going on in there. They both actually involve two different time periods,
Yes.
right? So there's a lot happening here. I mean, a lot happening between the both of them. Like, yeah. And I mean, he cut his teeth really with like cop shows, and you can really tell in some of these scenes where he's used to directing like cop stuff, right? Especially the one of the chase scenes that kind of happens towards like the beginning of the last act of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's full fledged. You could tell like that's uh, an elevated cop procedural directed scene. Just a bigger budget, more polished film take on it than what you would get on TV. And so, not to spoil the movie, because I'm sure a lot of people have not seen this movie, but
I mean, there was a
they
time.
have
There was a time when just about everybody had seen this movie.
this. Well,
Back
right,
when it
this was a
first came out,
fairly
it had
popular
it had a
movie.
pretty solid following
It
when it
did,
first came out.
and
But
I was.
yeah, it's one that
It
has
still
sort of fallen by the wayside since then.
it still holds a 7.4 on IMDb, which is actually pretty impressive.
Hmm.
For a movie that a lot of movies will sometimes gradually get lowered down a little bit, and I think that's a respectable rating on it because it's again I think the conceit is good. There's enough of a hook. And it goes back. We kind of talked about this with Fallen, right? There's a time where you could have kind of a mid-budget Hollywood movie
Mm-hmm.
like this with a good collection of a good cast and enough of a hook that you would get people to the theater. And it may not have been the big blockbuster, but it'd be a movie people would be talking about. And a movie that would do well when it would come out on video. And both of them, yeah, just haven't quite held, at least in terms of held within the popular mind, as well as some movies have. And they're both very respectable movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Uh, this one's a little bit this, I think again, not to get too spoilery about it, but I think obviously the endings do end up being a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this movie holds its conceit on the time anomaly well,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to grab too much into it because that would go into the plot.
Yeah.
In terms of the the physics of it and how it works
Yeah.
and how things change. But
Yeah.
and this movie takes place in New York. This place does not. Fallen took place in Philadelphia. This takes place in New York, and specifically, it actually takes place like out in Queens, the
Yeah. Takes
far
place in
edge of
Queens.
Queens. So which I don't we've talked a lot about New York movies, obviously.
I mean, there's a
But
lot of New
usually
York
it's
movies.
a lot of them. They take normally they take place in Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one fully takes place in Queens, unmistakably.
Yep.
So much so that the Mets are
Well,
just like a central
no,
part of this movie.
this movie doesn't fully take place in Queens. The first 20, 30 seconds of it takes place in space. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. This movie shows you the sun.
Mm-hmm. And solar flares.
That's the big spoiler right there. I
Yep,
mean,
right
you
there.
expect to see the
That's
sun
the
in the
big
movie
spoiler.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but you never see solar flares.
You see the sun's point of view.
The sun's looking at Earth. It's like, that's a nice ass.
Yep. It's looking at Earth. It's like,
By the way, you know what I
yeah.
didn't mention last week about asses?
What?
Chuck Norris's ass is wonderful. I kept looking at him in that denim on denim, and this purpley sculpted his
Yep.
buns.
Chuck Norris definitely filled out a pair of jeans. Have you ever seen the ads for Chuck Norris action pants?
Anyway, enough about Chuck Norris. This movie is kind of a departure from that Chuck Norris series, though, right? There is some action in this
Yes.
movie. It's a little bit of a thriller,
Mhm.
right? There's not a bunch of rocket launcher play in this movie.
No.
There's no micro Uzis. No one is driving out of a ditch in a truck,
Nope.
and that's okay.
Nobody's rising from the river with an M60.
But
Every movie needs that. Every movie needs that.
every movie needs that. There's a scene in this movie where you just see Jim Caviezel staring at a bridge, and I just needed Chuck Norris rising out from that river.
Yes.
For no reason whatsoever,
No.
but just to have that in the scene.
Yep.
It's just like every movie that has mountains in it needs to have Sylvester Stallone just hanging from a cliff.
Mm-hmm. You mean cliffhanger? Hanging from a cliff?
Chuck Norris, yeah. Even if it's just a little stream. You can have a movie about Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, and as he's crossing the Rubicon, Chuck Norris ascends.
Or if it's, somebody taking a drink out of a water fountain at the park. He just rises from the water in the water fountain.
You got a kid jumping in puddles, and Chuck Norris just rises from the puddle.
Yes. Yes.
He needed to be an it. He would have taken care of Pennywise.
Yeah, he would have. He would have popped Pennywise's balloon.
But yes, I'm glad to rewatch this because it was kind of a nice blast to the past.
It was.
It's a movie.
It really was. It takes place in 1999.
Yes, this movie,
we're
almost 30 years removed from this movie, and then that's the time gap in this movie between time periods is 30
years.
Yep. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. We are right now 3 years away from that 30 years.
Because this movie was released in the spring of 2000,
and it was
even
takes
place in October of 69. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, yeah, I
But
guess it
yeah,
was October. I was thinking March.
well, the movie was released like in March or
Yeah,
April of 2000,
yeah,
but it took place in
yeah.
October of 1999 and October of
Mm-hmm.
1969.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
because it took
yeah,
place during the World Series.
World Series, yes, with the Amazing Mets.
Mm-hmm. Amazing Mets.
But yeah, I was happy. I was very happy to revisit it, and I wouldn't mind watching it again soon because
Same here.
uh, despite all there's action, like there's some action, like we said, there's some intrigue, uh, but the actors help carry it. Without the
Yes.
acting in this, um, they get you invested in
Mm-hmm.
wanting to see how all this resolves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. So, shall we get into it?
We should get into it.
Let's get into it. As always, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind being spoiled, keep on listening, but you have been warned. We are going to be spoiling this entire movie. Every little bit of time anomaly goodness
Every little bit
in this movie.
of time anomaly. And this movie starts out with the sun, like you said.
Like with the sun. The camera
And
is flying over the sun.
that is one of the spots that one of the little details I forgot about.
I did too.
It starts from the sun's perspective.
Did too. Yeah.
And you see those solar flares.
Yes, you see some solar flares around the sun. And then we zoom in to the Earth.
We zoom in. Yeah, we pass the satellite, we move into the Earth, and we zoom into New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't start with any of our main characters yet.
Nope.
We start with a truck driver. He's driving a tanker truck.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he's just driving through the city.
And he's, I guess, approaching kind of like this construction zone.
Yeah.
Where they're not so much doing work with the road, they're doing work under the road, on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they have to close off the road to do this. And he has to swerve to avoid hitting this other car. And he jackknifes. And he starts to, it falls over, and all of a sudden, it cracks the tank. And obviously now, all of a sudden, like, it's just flooding the road and then the sewer underneath with all this fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Where all these men are working, right? And they're kind of stuck because they have all these electrical wires, and they're obviously concerned that any spark now is going to hit all this fuel is just flooding down and cause a massive explosion. So who they're going to call?
Ghostbusters.
Because they do work in New York in a fire station.
They do. But the ones who answer the phone are the FDNY.
Which, by the way, this is interesting about this. Well, you know what? I'll touch on this afterwards. Not yet. We should touch on this because this is a very important aspect of it, of the movie. It's kind of hard to ignore, but yeah. So yeah, they call the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then we get a view of the station. The men get their gear on, right, and they head out to the scene. And we should mention the truck driver was listening to the radio, right? You hear different news reports about different things that are happening in New York City and the world at that time, including the World Series, right? A few other things. They're talking about this serial killer that's going around New York City killing nurses.
They're calling the Nightingale Killer.
So that both important pieces of information to have.
Yes. And then there's also as the camera's sort of panning down, like before we even get the truck driver and the 911 call and all that, as the camera's sort of panning down to the earth, like to New York, we hear sort of some radio broadcasts and stuff there too, talking about, solar flares and
the aurora
borealis and All
Which,
that.
and they talk about like it's
Because the Aurora Borealis makes some appearances in this movie.
it's a big thing in this movie, and they make it the big deal that it's a particularly strong solar period, right? Um that in the city, like would be visible to the naked eye,
Yeah.
right? Typically, like that far south, like even with like a good night lens,
Mm-hmm.
you're normally not going to see the auroras in New York, or at least
No.
New York City.
No.
But here they're visible, like even through all the light pollution
Yes.
that New York has. It's a strong showing of the auroras, which is what they're talking about on the radio also.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they'll become a big thing throughout this movie. I mean, this is one of the few movies that makes the Aurora Borealis like a central part
Yes.
of the movie,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, but so they arrive at the scene.
If only
go ahead.
David Boreanaz were in this movie. Then David Boreanaz could look up at the Aurora Borealis.
Yep, he could.
Or
he would.
If he, flew up there and like got in the middle of it, then it would turn into the Aurora Boreanaz. Which I'm pretty sure I stole from an episode of Family Guy or something.
Probably. Somewhere in the recesses of your mind, there was an episode that you just happen to recall. So, Family Guy was around back then too, strangely enough. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I think it was an episode of Family Guy. I think it was one of the Stewie and Brian episodes. When they're traveling, because they look up and Brian's like, hey, look, the Aurora Borealis. And it's the Aurora Borealis with David Boreanaz's face in it.
That makes a lot of sense. Anyway. So, when they arrive on the scene, right? There's several men that are still trapped down below, right? And they've taken care of, they've been able to clean up most of the spill street level.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there is a bunch of fuel that's gone down to the sewer, and it's knocked loose like all this electrical. They haven't been able to cut off the electrical, the current to these wires is just dangling, ready just to spark.
Yep.
All this fuel that's down there.
And so who goes down there? Frank Sullivan.
Dennis Quaid. Frank Sullivan.
Played by Dennis
John
Quaid.
Francis Sullivan.
Yes. John Francis Sullivan.
Frank Sullivan. This guy is a firefighter through and through. He is, as we discovered later, he's like third generation.
Mm-hmm.
This is his blood. This is his thing.
Well, he's second generation.
Is he second? Oh, yes, he is second generation.
He's second generation. But still, yeah.
Actually, he's Frank Sullivan. John Francis Sullivan's his son.
Yes, John Francis. Yeah, he's Frank
he's
Patrick.
Just Francis
he's
Sullivan.
Francis
right?
Patrick
Frank
Sullivan.
That's right, Patrick. Patrick.
Yeah, Francis Patrick Sullivan.
Such an Irish name.
Yeah, it is.
And I mean, he is firefighting is his blood. It's his life. The only thing he loves, the only two things he loves more than firefighting is his wife and his son.
Yeah.
The Mets are pretty close to that.
Yeah.
But
yes, he does love the Amazing Mets.
So, right, and he's going down there with this like rookie, right? And they get down there, right, and they have to be careful because like these guys are kind of trapped in this
little service area.
This little service area, yes. And so they get the crowbar and they have to pry it open, right? And
but they got to be really careful
with the butt of their axe. But they don't want to create a spark, right?
They got to hit it gently so they don't create a spark because they got all this fuel around them. They don't want to ignite anything. And so they get the door open, and this flood comes out at them.
Yep.
This water and fuel mixture just comes pouring out of this door out. And they get in there and they see the guys that are trapped in there. And there's this live wire dangling from the ceiling.
Yeah.
and it's sparking. And so they got to hurry up and get these guys out before this
And
wire
there's
falls.
one guy,
It's
he's a little
slowly,
bit injured.
It's slowly, you know, the brackets that are holding it up to the walls are slowly breaking, and it's
slowly breaking,
falling a little bit at a time.
and so it's a race. I think it's like two guys in there to get them out.
Yeah.
Right, and they reach the the manhole cover where it is, and they get the two guys up first, and the rookie gets up, and um, Frank, he's the last one who's going up, right, and all of a sudden as he's climbing the ladder, that bracket just gives way, and the wire hits the fuel, and all of a sudden, right, it causes this massive fireball, right, and he's watching this, it's coming down,
it's coming up, so he's just racing up that ladder as fast as he can, and he barely makes it out of that manhole before this flame just comes shooting out of the top.
Manhole as it's just shooting straight up.
He barely gets his legs out of the way,
and then he gets out of the way. He goes over the rookie there. And he's like, "Welcome to the company, kid." And he has a good laugh, right? He's like, "That's just another day in New York, another night in New York City," right? And then we cut to the daytime, and the song "Heat Wave" is on, right? Because they just had a bunch of heat with this fire.
Yeah, and I mean it seems like it's a warmish October.
Warmish October.
It doesn't seem like it's a very cold, like it's gotten into the colder part of fall.
Yeah, it's not a cool. It's not one of the again and it establishes kind of like early to mid October, and it's been a mild fall so far, right? And so he's driving around, he's on his motorcycle, right? And again, you can tell that this is like a classic Queens looking neighborhood, right? This is not Manhattan. You don't have all the high rises, or all the apartments, right? You got a bunch of like row homes, little yards, right? Very working class type neighborhood. We have one of the bridges in the background. And he arrives home and his son's out there, right? John Francis Sullivan. And he is playing catch with his best friend Gordo. Right? Stephen Jaffe plays the younger Gordo. And Daniel Henson plays the young John Francis Sullivan, or Johnny, as he's called at 6 years old, right?
Or Little Chief.
Little Chief. That's right, Little Chief.
Little Chief is what his dad calls him.
And he gets in the house, and there's his wife making dinner, right? Julia Sullivan, played by Elizabeth Mitchell, right? And and they get in, and she's making dinner. She's got some type of sauce on the stove, and she ends up let it boil a little bit too long and bubbles over, and she gets a little bit upset, right? And she's like, right? You can tell here she is, like, later on we discover that she also works full time, and she works the night shift as a nurse. Or does she work the night shift? No, she works.
No, she
works the second shift, like the evening shift.
Yeah,
but he works a lot of times. He'll work like night.
Yeah, I mean he has a firefighter schedule, so he works some crazy hours.
But she works she's at home during the day for Johnny, and then and then she'll go off to work, working as a nurse, right? And you can quite tell some of the domestic stuff is not not her strongest suit, which I kind of like, right? She loves being a mother. She's a great wife. But some of the things, like, it's not her best, and she does, but she tries, and and you can tell right away that the two of them love each other, right? Because he's like, it's okay if you burn dinner or whatever. It's like, I'll take you over any of this, right? And he puts on his favorite musician, Elvis.
Yeah.
Right. And he starts singing it to her, and they kind of dance together in the kitchen.
And Johnny
Right?
comes up to the door, and he's looking, and he's smiling. He's got his baseball glove, and he sort of waves Gordo over.
It's like, look at my mom and dad. They're going to kiss.
And Gordo's just like, that's weird. It's like, why'd you call me over here, dude? But Johnny's just smiling, and Frank goes to dip Julia, and she throws her head back and sees Johnny in the doorway and sort of smiles and waves at him.
And he's smiling because Gordo's still like, oh.
Yeah. Gordo's still wondering why Johnny called him over. He's like, why are we watching your parents dance, dude? This is lame. Let's go play ball.
Yeah, I kind of like that. It's a funny, it's a funny little detail, but it's actually one of those little authentic details that helps the movie, right?
It is, yeah.
It's like you can tell these two boys are like 6 years old.
Yeah,
are good friends now.
Yes,
it's like, hey, look at my mom and dad. It's like, what? Come on, you're lame. Oh.
But it also shows how close the family is.
It does show how close the family is, and it's really, really important. And the payoff, really, it takes a long time for the payoff to really hit with it. But it's established here, right? And so, yeah, I think we kind of continue with the story here with this group, and now we kind of expand from the family and the best friend to like the neighborhood, right? And we have kind of like a little block party, right? Because like we said, it's going to be the World Series, right? And the neighborhood, the block gets together to watch the first game of the World Series on TV. Yeah. Right, so they get a TV outside. They get to doing the gravity.
They roll the TV out there. That old '60s TV.
Yeah,
black and white. Roll it out on the back porch.
Things about 12 inches.
And they're all just crowded around there.
There's like 40 people just crowded around. Kids, adults. Someone's cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, right? They all have again, you can kind of tell like it's a warmish day because like they're wearing like short sleeves and it's October.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just kind of grilling, drinking beer. Right. And then we get
Andre Brower comes out.
What was that?
We meet some of their friends. Andre Brower comes out.
Andre Brower comes out. Yep.
He is probably Frank's best friend.
And he's not a firefighter.
No, he's a
cop.
And he goes up to the kids. They're all sitting right up front, right in front of the TV.
He's like, I got something for you kids. I got
something for you. And he starts handing out baseball tickets. Tickets to a baseball game. And Johnny gets excited and runs over to his dad. And
he's like, Dad. Hey, Dad.
Look what Satch gave me. And Frank sees it. He's like, what? You giving these kids tickets? Did you say thank you? Go say thank you.
It's okay. I got him off a perp. Right. And so, but right before they're about to all start, like, Frank gets this idea, right? He gets his camera out. He wants everyone to gather around, right? He's like, oh, everybody. To say amazing Mets, right? And everyone kind of says amazing Mets, and he takes a picture, right? And the picture kind of fades, sort of like a black and white photograph,
of a skeleton, a partial skeleton in the dirt, and then I like this fade. I like this segue into the next section of the movie. And so now we are 30 years later.
Yep.
In October of 1999.
Yeah.
And we get Jim Caviezel.
Yep.
Walking around with Andre Brower.
Yep.
An older Andre Brower.
Yep. Yep. Now it's his dad's best friend, 30 years older, but now
Mm-hmm.
he's working with his dad's best
Yeah.
friend. And they're at this construction site, right? And and in the middle of excavating at this site, they discovered this, human remains, right? And they realized pretty quickly this might be connected to this serial killer case we talked about earlier
Mm-hmm.
that went cold like
Yeah.
30 years earlier. Like
Yeah.
the killing stopped kind of abruptly.
Yeah.
And they look at this and they figure like
They stopped after
this,
3. There were 3
yep.
killings, and then they just stopped.
And this is a new one. They're thinking this one might be the first, right? They're not certain yet, right? Because they have to do all their
Mm-hmm.
testing and all to kind of confirm all of that, right? And then they go ahead and they talk to some, this neighborhood nearby, right, about different things. And he talks about how his son was this cop. He loved being this cop. And he remembers those killings, right? And so, it's a good way to kind of cut between like our first introduction to Frank Sullivan, right, is in the middle of a call,
Mm-hmm.
right, doing his job, and we get introduced to his son we see him obviously as a kid, but introduce him as a grown man, right, is doing his job as a cop, right? They're both doing their jobs in terms of either being New York's bravest or New York's finest, right? And so, anyway, so he ends up going home, and we realize pretty quickly that he lives in the house that he grew up in. But when he gets home, he gets greeted by his girlfriend, and she is going to leave him. So, because he won't change.
Yeah.
Right. And he's not really like, you could tell, like, he is, you know, he's tired. He wants to discuss this more, but he's too damn tired. He doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
put up much of a fight against it. But you can tell she's at the end of her rope with whatever's happened in the relationship, and she leaves, right? And she is played by Melissa Rico. So she leaves, and he goes to the fridge. She grabs a beer, right? And he goes off to this
Yeah.
baseball field in the neighborhood, and he's just thinking about things,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's like, and he gets back, and then he ends up seeing when he gets in there, his best friend, Gordo.
Well, first, he sees Gordo's son, Gordy Jr., playing video games.
Oh, that's right.
He's playing baseball on.
This is Michael
TV.
Cera, by the way.
Yes, this is Michael Cera. This is like a 10-year-old Michael Cera.
And yeah, so Gordy Jr. or Gordo Jr.
And he walks in there, sees him on playing video games, and then walks into the house a little bit farther, and Gordo, played by Noah Emmerich, is in the kitchen. And he's like, "Hey, sorry to just barge in here. Our TV's out."
Yep. He goes in the fridge, takes one of his friend's beers.
Takes one of his friend's beers. Yep. Takes one of John's beers.
He's like, oh yeah, Melissa burned the dinner, all this and that, right? Typical thing. And they're having a nice little conversation. And you can tell, they're still good friends, right?
Yeah.
And they start talking about how the Gordo and his son, right, Gordo Jr., they're going to go fishing that upcoming weekend. And they want to borrow John's fishing rod, right? So, I think I still have it. I think it's, it's in the little closet that's under the stairs, right? And so they go over to get it, and they pull out like this large, chest, right?
Well, Gordo sends Gordy Jr. to go get it. And so he goes and opens it up, and he finds this big chest, the FDNY crest on it. And
yep.
He's like, "Hey, Dad, look at this. This is so cool."
So cool. And they open it up, and one of the first things in there is a shotgun.
Yeah. So one of the first things, Gordy Jr. reaches in there. He's like, "Oh, cool." He grabs his shotgun. Gordo's real
It was like,
quick.
whoa,
He's like, whoa,
whoa.
whoa, whoa. Let me take that gun, son.
This is actually an important thing to see, by the
Yes.
way, that
Yes,
there
it
is the
is.
shotgun.
Mm-hmm. Very
The
important.
small, it seems like a small detail right now, but it's an important detail for
Mm-hmm.
later. And it's not because Gordo is going to go
No.
and,
No.
kill himself. And
Nope.
you're going to be sad because there's
No.
child suicide in this movie.
No. That's not. No. That doesn't happen in this movie.
Right?
What does
But they
happen
open
in
it up
this movie is they open up the trunk and
and it's actually the Ark of the Covenant.
yes. Yes.
And because of that, their eyes aren't closed.
Well, they don't open it. They don't open the Ark of the Covenant. They find the Ark of the Covenant inside the trunk.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And John Rice Davies is there to help them
Mm-hmm.
carry it.
Yes. Yeah, they get the poles.
For whatever reason, Sulla just magically
Mm-hmm.
appears in this house
Mm-hmm.
wearing his speds.
Yeah. 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 Which I saw him a few weeks ago, by the way. John Rhys Davies.
Cool.
I was at the Comic-Con and he was there, and I didn't get the chance to get up and meet him, but I did see him sitting there.
Well, at least
a
you got
table.
to see him. You saw him. So they open the chest, and there's pictures and all these other old things. And then you see this old ham radio.
Mm-hmm.
And Gore's like, oh, wow, it's your dad's old ham radio.
It's this old ham sitting right next to a radio.
And then he's like, oh, it's like, oh. And Gore's like, oh, like, what's that? It's like, oh, son, like, this is what we had before the internet. Right? Which, by the way, there's this joke while Gordo's playing, because Gordo Jr.'s playing a video game where, Gordo's like, you see, Yahoo got even higher in the stock market today.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
I just missed on that one.
Just missed on that one.
Which I think is funny.
In Yahoo.
It's funny that they're using Yahoo, right? That shows you that this is 2000.
Yeah.
Because Yahoo's still around. It was big for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
never became Google.
Nope. But no, in the early 2000s, Yahoo was huge.
It was huge. So anyway. And so
Yahoo.
like, oh. Little Gore's like, oh yeah, can we use this? It's like, oh yeah, why not? And they try to get it, and it's all this static, right? And like their house still has the massive antenna on top of it to try to capture the waves.
Yeah, because
right?
this is so John Sullivan is still living in the house that he grew up in. The same house, the same house that he and his parents were living in when he was a kid.
We have not seen either one yet, by the way. In 1999.
No, I mean his father is. Yeah, we haven't seen any of them. We've seen John.
So, but Gordo just saying, oh yeah, and you had to have the special license to like even broadcast on this, right? They gave you a special call sign, all that, right? And while they're trying to get it to work, Gordo's wife comes in. It's like, oh, we got to go home, right? So they go home, and he's playing on, and then John tries to play on a little bit more, and then finally we hear a voice come through. And it's Dennis Quaid's voice.
Yes.
Right? And he's at the end of his day, and he's just enjoying a cigarette, talking on the radio. It's his baseball and the ham radio. Those are the two things he really enjoys. Those are his hobbies. Right? And then John's like, oh yeah, I'm not really sure how to work this thing. Right? And Frank's like, oh, well, do you have a license? If you don't have a license, you need to sign off, or we'll have to report
sign off. And yeah, he's like, no, I don't have a license. I was just playing around with this thing, and
so this is like my dad's. This is my dad's old radio, and they quickly discover that they live like basically in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
right. And they're talking, and right now, they're just having a regular conversation that two strangers would have.
Yeah,
right. Nothing too personal, right?
No, just a friendly conversation.
And it's like, then the guy's like, oh yeah, are you excited about the World Series? Like, and then Frank says that. John's like, oh no, I got kind of tired of baseball and all the bullshit. And he's like, well, you gotta be excited about the World Series. Like, like the Mets are in the World Series. Like,
The Amazins.
eh, the Amazons. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, oh, I'll
Yeah,
love. He says,
He starts
I'll love these
naming.
certain
Yeah, he
players to the
starts
day
naming some
I
players. Yeah,
die.
and Frank's and yeah, the Dennis Quaid's like, yeah, that's my boy. That's yeah, that's how you do it.
Right.
And
And then, as Frank's talking about it, like, his wife and son come in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, all right, good night, Johnny. Yeah, good night, little chief." And then
and
John hears
John
that.
is
He's
like,
like, "Wait, what? Hmm?" So his son's name's Johnny. And they call him little chief.
you call your son Little Chief? It's like,
And all
yeah.
of a sudden, he's like Gordo, like, is that you, Gordo?
Mm-hmm.
Are you pranking me, Gordo?
Well, no, we're talking before that, before Johnny and Julia showed up. Um, he was John was talking about the game, about something that was going to happen in the game. Because
Yes.
he's like, yeah, I think because Frank was like, I think the Mets are going to go all the way this year. He's like, oh, they were going to, but then this thing happened in the next game and all that. And he's like, oh, you're lying. There's no way you could know that. There's no way you could tell what. Then they come in and he calls him Little Chief, and
Right.
yeah, then John starts getting upset. He's like, Gordo, if this is you, I'm going to kill you.
Right. And then, of course, Frank's like, Gordo, like, how do you know my son's name? My son's best friend's name. Like, he's getting like freaked out about this, like a father would.
Yeah.
And John, from his perspective, is obviously kind of upset, thinking that his friend's pranking him.
His friend's pranking
They're both
him.
having completely rational responses.
They're both very rationally upset.
Right. You get a scene where, like, John is kind of yelling into the mic. Like, Frank gets away, he looks out the window, and he's looking around to see if someone's in the yard, like looking at them, like staring at their house. Right. He's going full protective mode at this moment.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And he's like, listen here, you son of a bitch. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, and then as he's talking about that, remember, Frank was smoking a cigarette. He drops a cigarette.
Yeah. Drops a cigarette
on the desk.
And
it burns a hole into it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
he leaves this black char mark on the desk.
John
and all of a sudden,
is looking at the desk, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden, this black spot shows up right in the middle of the desk, on John's desk in '99.
He's a detective, so all of a sudden he puts things together pretty quickly. He's like, whoa.
He's like, whoa! You just burned the desk, didn't you? And so then he realizes what's going on. He realizes that he is actually talking to his father.
Yes. And right now, Frank, he's not in any mode to think about that because he's still in protect mode.
Mm-hmm. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? How do you know? How do you know that I burned the desk? He's like, because I can see it. I can see the desk. And so, yeah, this is when he runs over to the window and he's looking out there to see, if anybody's looking in and watching his family.
And then he realized.
Then he gets back.
And he realizes, I'm sorry, we forgot about the conversation that John has with his mother earlier.
Yes, we did.
So,
after he broke up, after he
goes to his mother's apartment. Yeah.
Yeah, after Samantha broke up with him, then he goes to his mother's apartment and he's talking to her.
And he's looking around, and then he sees a photo of his dad on the thing on this. It's like 30 years tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom, for her, she's like, yeah, the 30 years, right? And we realize that we see this newspaper clipping about this firefighter that dies
in a warehouse fire.
In a warehouse fire, that's Frank.
And
so they have a conversation about that. Even before that, she's like, "Oh, how's your girl? How's Melissa?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we're good." He lies to her, right? We're working on things, but yeah, it's just, She's a loving mother. She's like, good, good, right? So yeah, they had a lovely conversation in her apartment, and they go back. Anyway, so but before they get off, before back to John and Frank now. All of a sudden, John's like, it's like it occurs to him. He just starts talking about it's like okay, I can prove it to you. Like tomorrow, it's the game where you know
Well, he already told him
Cleon
about the game with Cleon Jones.
well, no,
But
well, that comes
at
during
this
this part of
point,
the conversation. Like
no.
Cleon Jones gets hit with the ball. It's like, oh, hey, it was that, yeah. It's like, right. And then it's like, no, I was like, oh, that's right. You wouldn't know about that. Like you're not gonna find out about it. It's like tomorrow's the day you die. And he just kind of blurts it out.
I think.
No, I'm
No,
gonna
I
die.
think. I think
I'm gonna die tomorrow.
No, we're getting things a little bit mixed up. These are two different radio calls. The first one was when they were talking about Cleon Jones and the Mets and everything, and then they sign off for the night, and then I think then is when he goes to talk to his mom, and then comes
That's
back.
right. They come
and
back.
Frank is on there calling for him on the radio, calling for him, and that's when he's like, "How did you know that? How did you know that was going to happen in the game?" He's like, "The game happened 30 years ago."
That's right. Yes, you're right. Oh yeah, the game happened 30 years ago. That's right. It was two different conversations.
Yeah, two different conversations.
So yeah, they sign off cordially.
Yeah.
Um,
And then this one, the second conversation is when they both get heated and they start realizing. Then
yes.
John starts realizing what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, well, in the middle of that, it's like what happened 30 years ago. It's like, yeah. And so while things are getting heated, like he just blurts out, like, well, no, tomorrow you're gonna die in the Buxton fire.
Tomorrow there's gonna be at the Buxton warehouse. There's gonna be a fire. You went with your instinct and you were wrong. Just go the other way.
Chief told mom that you went with your instinct, that you did that you did what any trained firefighter
would do. Just go the other way.
But you should have gone the other way.
And then he barely gets that out before Frank just shuts everything off, because Frank is pissed because he thinks that this person's watching his family. And
yeah, reasonably so. Right. And so we cut the next day. We're in 1969 now, and Frank is watching one of the games on TV. He's smoking a cigarette, right? And they get a call to this warehouse, and here's what the warehouse is. It's Buxton, right? And John had told him about how there was a game-winning homer that would happen in this game, right? And this, they cut off in the middle of the game, right? And that rookie that we saw earlier, he's listening to it on the radio as they're driving to the fire. He's like, "We win, we won!" And like Frank, he's got this 1,000-yard stare going on as they're just driving down to the fire, right? But we're cutting this back and forth between 1999, right? Because again, we're at the 30th anniversary. So, and you get the sense that like John
and Gordo
and Satch kind of celebrate this, or not celebrate it, but memorialize it together every year.
Yeah. So they go to this bar and they get a table, off in a little shut off section of the bar. Right.
Gordo's being this good friend, it's like supportive to his lifelong friend, right? And Satch is there as kind of like this father figure to both of them.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
but also because like
Frank's best friend, but also
Frank was his best friend.
Frank was his best friend, and he is sort of John's mentor.
You could tell like he was already like, loved these boys because of the relationship, but then especially with John afterwards, took on another level, right?
So they start joking around about it. Hey, remember when they got you that cop play kit, and then Gordo's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I was always the perp. He'd always put me in handcuffs."
They're talking, they're enjoying themselves. They have some, they have some beers on the table. They have some shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so
it, cuts back.
then
It
it
cuts
cuts
back to
back to
that fire, right?
69, and then the fire truck
There,
pulls up to
they
the,
pulls up, and this girl comes out. It's like, my sister's up there. My sister's up there, right?
and they're like, where?
And
Top
so,
floor, top floor.
top floor, and
Because they had already, because the
bunch,
fire was raging when they got there, and the chief had already said nobody goes in.
yes,
We all stay outside. The fire's too severe. Nobody goes in. And then this woman runs out yelling about her sister. And so
right.
Frank
And this house,
decides
this
he's going to go
warehouse
in after
is like
her.
at the edge of like a dock,
Yeah.
right? So you have like some water there. It's at the edge of it, right?
Yeah. And
So,
so
Frank goes in.
as Frank is heading toward the building, he looks up and sees the big sign painted on the side of the building that
It
says
says
Buxton
Buxton.
Seeds. And he sort of stops for a second, realizing,
But
something from the conversation last night.
so at first he's thinking like, well, I'm not going to do that. At first, like, yeah, I'm not going to go in. But then the firefighter instinct kid, like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's an innocent person up there. Like,
Yeah.
if that person's alive, I need to try to save this person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he goes in, right, and the rookie goes in with him, but like they get to a point where like it's too dangerous, really much too dangerous, really go further. So he tells him to go back out, but he continues on. And he eventually finds this girl. And he realizes they're kind of like these runaways that were just kind of like squatting in this warehouse, right?
Yeah.
And he gets her. Right?
He goes up. He finds her.
I got the girl. I'm on. I got the girl. And the captain's like, all right. She's like, all right, you gotta get out of there now, right? And he turns to go one way. He looks around at this different exits. He looks at one. He's like, okay, that looks like the safe way.
Well, he goes. Well, first off, he goes out there and he, breaks the window, and they're bringing the ladder up.
Oh, no, that's right. That's right. No, the ladder, but the ladder gets jammed.
Yeah, the ladder gets jammed, and so they can't. It's sitting maybe 5 or 6 feet away from the window.
Yeah,
and they can't. He can't go.
It's too far to actually get out to get like it was like a foot away. Like they
just
could go
barely
out,
too far to be able to get out of there.
He could reach her out over. One of the firefighters could grab her, and then he could reach over.
Right now, it's too far away for them to risk that. So,
because again, there were good 4 or 5 stories up, so it's not like they're two stories up where they can.
No, they're like on the 5th floor, something like that, and so Frank decides he's going to take her out another way, and so he takes off his helmet and he throws it through a window to sort of create some airflow.
Yep.
Right. And then picks her up and, goes toward, there's these 2 doors, these 2 passageways. One is a closed door where all I can see on the other side is just smoke under the door. The other side is just this raging inferno down this hallway. Yep. And so, he starts going with his instinct, going with his training, and he turns and he goes toward that closed door.
Yep.
And then he remembers what John said. Just go the other way. So he stops and he turns around and he runs down the other hallway that's on fire.
Yep.
And when he gets over there, he finds this trap door. He lifts it up and there's this chute.
This whole chute.
There's this chute down there. So he jumps in there and just slides down this chute. And as he's going down the chute, it keeps on cutting to his fireman's helmet falling,
which is just
out of the window,
falling from where he threw it out the window.
And it keeps cutting back to 1999, where John is now like almost in shock, right? And he knocks his glass over, and his glass.
It's a slow motion as it's falling off the table.
And so these the 3 things that are falling. So you got Frank and the girl sliding down this chute. And you got the helmet. It's fallen, and the glass are all falling like the same slow motion.
And then we're cutting into the chute where you're seeing, Frank with the girl sliding, and then you're starting to see John, and like all of a sudden he's getting these flashes.
Mm-hmm. These flashes of a childhood with his dad.
Yeah. Where his dad is there when he graduates high school. His dad is driving this Mustang, not a motorcycle. Where his dad is there when he graduates from the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, all of a sudden, like, they shoot out the chute, which leads into this, to the
Into the
water there,
water.
right? And there's and they land in the water,
And the
that's when
helmet
the
falls
hard
and
hat
it
just
hits the
hits the
ground,
pavement.
and then the glass
The
hits the
glass
floor and shatters. And
and then all of a sudden,
Satch and Gordo were like,
whoa,
whoa, you okay, John?
okay?
You okay? It's like, yeah, I'm all right. My dad didn't die in a fire, did he? They're like, no, it was cancer. 10 years ago.
Yeah, because of the cigarettes, right? Like, yeah, 10 years ago. And the waitress is there. It's like they're like, it's okay. Just get us some towels. We'll help clean this up. Like, we want to make sure.
Yeah. The waitress comes out. Is everything okay? Then Gordo and Satch are like, yeah, just get us some towels. We'll clean it up.
And they're just trying to make sure he's like okay, because this is coming out of nowhere from their perspective, right? And finally, then we cut back to 1969, right? And they had one of the firefighter, the fire department boats are there to help put out the fire too, right? They help get the girl out, right? And then he gets up on the little barge that they have for the hoses, and he just starts yelling, "Little chief!"
Yeah,
and he's like, and
yeah. So now he's convinced.
Things have been changed.
Yeah, he's convinced that what John was saying was true.
So both of them, the first thing on their mind when they can is they get home.
Get home and get on that radio.
Get on that radio. Right? And then, Frank gets there first.
And also what we didn't mention before was, just another little side thing, on one of their conversations earlier was, on TV, they were talking to a physicist and he was talking about the Aurora Borealis and
between the two,
how it's an exceptionally strong one this year. Between 69 and 99, it's the same scientist that they're talking to, who was actually the physics consultant for the movie.
Okay.
Playing himself.
So I guess before we get to their conversations, I'm glad to bring up the physics about it, right? So, we've seen two things change. So the desk changed with the cigarette burning on it, right? And now, obviously, Dennis Quaid lives.
Yeah. And
these things, so you would think that, at what point does the history change? What point do things change?
Yeah.
Right? And so it kind of, everything will kind of start to line up simultaneously with each other.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, here's the thing. So this is happening, these conversations they're having and all this, it's happening on the same date, just different years.
The same date,
just 30 years
at the same time.
30 years apart.
Yep.
The same date at the same
30
time.
30 years apart.
Just 30 years apart.
So you could say, well, theoretically, like, okay, after that conversation the night before, when, he warns his father about what's going to happen, that's when things theoretically should have changed. Right? You could argue that.
You could argue that. Yes, you could argue that. But you could also argue that things didn't change until his dad made that decision to follow his son's advice.
Which I think you could see how that needs to line up with both of them as they progress simultaneously, 1999, 1969, kind of lockstep.
Yeah.
Right? Which would be the way I kind of look at it. I think it makes enough sense for this.
Yeah, I do too.
If you want to argue the other, that's fine. I don't think. Way it's presented here,
there are several. Yeah, I prefer to look at it that way too. I mean, there are too many things, like results of these things happening in the past changing. The whole butterfly effect thing.
Yeah.
That there would be so many changes in the world between these times because of this.
Yes.
That, everything would be different 30 years later.
Everything would be different. Right.
But the movie doesn't focus on any of that. And that's okay that the movie doesn't focus on any of that.
Maybe you could argue other little details like, would he be living in the same house if his dad lived?
Yeah.
Okay. I perhaps, but anyway, so enough of that for the moment. So
I mean, there's
they both get home.
It would be way too easy to get bogged down in all that, and I'm glad that the movie kind of just glosses over a lot of that stuff.
What I really like about the movie, right? Because the movie's 2 hours long, and it gives a good 20-25 minutes to introduce the characters before it really gets to the meat of the story, which is where we are now.
Yeah.
Right. So they get home, and I forget who's the first one to start calling.
So they both start calling, but Frank can't get through. Like, for some reason, his radio isn't wanting to work for him to be able to call. So John is sitting there. He's waiting to get the call from him. He's trying to contact him, but it won't go through. And
that's right. That's what it is. Thank you.
And then John looks down at the desk, and there's a message written on the desk, burned into the desk,
soldering iron,
and it says, "I'm still here," and then a C and an H, and then you see the I being drawn, and then it shows Frank sitting there with his soldering iron, writing into the desk. And he's saying, "I'm still here, Chief." And
right, that's right.
So that's how John knew that he survived.
Right. But they eventually would connect with each other. And John is still kind of like in this shell shock because his dad survived this. But he's having these dual memories.
Oh,
he remembers.
There's one thing that we missed though. But before they get back and they're on the radio. So after the Buxton fire, then Frank went to the hospital to visit Julia.
He was at the hospital before they talk? Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if he went to the hospital or after they talked.
Yeah, it was before they talked. Because he went to because he went to the hospital, and also it showed John at the police station before they get home to the radios. Because Frank goes to the hospital to visit Julia because he just survived a fire that he wasn't supposed to survive. He goes to see his wife and all that. And there's this patient. She's a nurse, like we said before.
Yeah, she's a
nurse. And there's this patient in the bed who.
Yep.
She's over talking to Frank, and she notices that.
Well, she's talking to him. It's like, oh, I had a bad feeling about today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Like I love you.
And then she notices this.
There's this youngish doctor. She's like, hey, doctor, wait.
Yeah, he's putting something into the IV, and he's like, wait, no. I just gave him this. You can't mix that with Benadryl. And so she unhooks the Benadryl.
Right. It's like it's in his chart.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't know anything. She's like, it's in his chart. And he goes and picks up the chart. He's like, oh, there it is. And then Frank comes over. He's about to say goodbye. And then say, all right, we'll see you later. I'll see you later. Right. And as we're saying the goodbyes, we cut back. It shows this guy in the bed.
And he is staring up.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he's looking at her.
And it lingers on this guy for a few seconds. So
what do you think that means?
It's something important, I would imagine.
And that's when he goes home.
So then he goes, and then it cuts to 1999 when John is talking to Satch at the police station, and they're going over the Nightingale because Satch is like, we got. This is when they identified the bones.
That's right.
The lab came back with the results.
She was the first.
So she was the first. Yeah, it was Mary Finelli, the first victim of the Nightingale. And John's like, yeah, so there were 3 victims, and Satch is like, no, you know this case better than anybody.
No, this part comes later. This is after the conversation because he has to.
Yeah, you're right. This is after. Yeah. This is after because he finds out something in that conversation that.
Yeah. There is a scene though in there where he goes to his girlfriend. She's studying in his library.
Yeah, and she doesn't know who he is.
She does not recognize. I know you. You're Gordo and Gordo's wife.
Yeah, you're Gordo's friend. Yeah, their neighbor.
I met you at one of their parties once.
Yeah,
or something
I met you
like
at a cookout.
Right? Anyway, so we go back now. Back to father and son.
Yeah,
and they finally connect.
Frank is like, "You were right. I went the other way, and I, thank you for saving my life." And You know, it's so really good kind of to talk to you.
Confusing for John because like he has this new flood of memories.
Yeah. So and he tells him that
they're almost like these dreamlike memories for him, right? Because the stronger memories are there's a life without his dad.
Yeah. So and he tells his dad that he's like, so it's weird because I have two sets of memories. You know, I have the memories of growing up without you, and then I also have these new memories of growing up with you. And
he's like, "Oh, John, I'm sorry." Like, yeah, and I was like, losing you was so hard, and you know, I can't lose you again, Dad. Like, I. He's like, okay, I promise, Chief. At least not like that.
Yeah. And so Frank's like, so tell me about yourself. You know, you a firefighter? Sounds like, no.
Funny thing, Dad, I went the other way.
I went the other way. I'm a cop. and Frank's like,
damn it,
Satch.
I thought he was going to go out of that phase. And it becomes this epic father-son conversation.
So they're talking, it seems like hours.
Right. And we kind of cut to different things. It's like they talk about Frank decides he wants to know everything about this World Series.
Yes, he wants to know everything about the World Series. So
John is telling him
everything about the shoe polish play, everything.
Yep. It's like, and Frank is like, oh, what? Did he have a great series? Like, I'm gonna get there. Just wait. And they talk about Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, right? It's like they talk about just general baseball things that have happened. And he's like, oh no, I played, but I blew out my arm in high school, right? These different things that have happened. It's like, oh, Dad, and Frank's like, I never owned a red Mustang. Like, well, you will.
You will. Yep.
And you loved it.
Right? And then
he's like, Dad, you got to stop smoking those cigarettes. It's like, oh, you sound like your mother.
It's like, no, but seriously, I know you keep on thinking that it's not going to happen to you, but it does. That's what gets you.
But finally, we have to go to bed. And they're both kind of like, they're both kind of afraid to sign off because like they're afraid of losing.
They're afraid of losing it. Yeah. But they sign off. Frank goes to tuck Johnny in. Little Johnny, not adult Johnny. So
that will be fun too. Anyway.
Goes to tuck him in, sings him the baseball song. Every night he sings
a baseball song.
Yes, every night he sings Johnny, take me out of the ball game.
Yep. They're like, sing me the baseball song, Daddy.
And John goes to bed, and he's tossing and turning.
He can't sleep.
Well, he's sleeping, but he's having this nightmare. Like he's having this dream that he is at a funeral.
And it's not Chuck Norris, because guess what? He is not a terrorist.
No.
So Chuck Norris is not going to give him nightmares.
Exactly. If Chuck Norris showed up in his dream, it would be to save him.
That's right. He would be rising from the water.
Yes. Yes. Perfect place for that to be in this movie, too.
Killing the thing that's causing his nightmare.
Yes. But in this dream, he's sitting under a table. There's all these people, you just see their legs from under this table, right? And you can tell it's a funeral.
Yeah, it's this little boy dressed in black under this table.
And little Johnny is sitting under this table and he's holding this necklace. And it looks very similar to a necklace that we saw earlier. That, again, the camera lingered on it when Frank and Julia were dancing.
That it did.
This FDNY necklace that Julia was wearing. But he's holding the necklace, and we see, Gordo's there, and, he's, trying to comfort his friend, and
everyone's
all these adults are there, and
funeral.
It's made to look like it's Frank's funeral. Mm-hmm. And then we see these legs stop in front of the table, and this person kneels down and looks under the table, and it is Frank. It is Dennis Quaid.
And he's looking right at John.
And John's crying.
John's crying. John now wakes up. Big Johnny wakes up. So he decides, you know what? I'm going to go call mom. Right? And he calls the number, and it's some restaurant, some carry-out restaurant. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, wrong number.
Yeah.
So he tries again.
Tries again, and it's carry-out restaurant.
The same person answering.
Oh, sorry.
So
he's like, that's weird. Did she change her number? And so he goes to work, and this is when he's talking to Satch, and they have an ID on the bones, and it's Mary Finelli.
Well, when he first gets in there, like he can tell, like he gets in, like he's had a bad night, and like he goes in the bathroom and he's sweating, and Satch is like,
Satch is pissed off at him. He's like, do not bring that to work.
He kind of came in a little bit late. He looks like he's hungover. He's like, don't disrespect me.
Yeah, don't disrespect me or anybody else in this building. So yeah, I mean, Satch's demeanor has changed since the last time we saw him. Yep. And so they're they're walking out. Satch tells them that they ID'd the bones, Mary Finelli, and then John is excited because like that's the first victim.
That's the first victim.
That's the first victim, which means it's 4. We can figure out who it is because chances are she knew him.
Because the first victim with these serial killers, they usually know each other.
And so that makes 4. And
what are you talking about?
You know this case better than anybody.
There were 10 victims.
There were 10 victims. It's like, no, there were 3. It's like, no, there were 10. You should know this, John. And he gives John
looked over these files more than anybody.
And he's flipping through the files, and he stops at one of them and almost throws up.
Yeah.
Like the shock hits him when he sees this one. And then the camera shows the file, and it's Julia Sullivan.
It's Julia.
His mother.
And Satch is looking at him like, are you okay? Like and so now, so things have changed for the worse.
And we also saw earlier, a little bit earlier. This is important for later, but a little bit earlier, we saw John and Satch talking to an older couple.
That's right.
About their son, who was an NYPD officer who died back in the 60s, who died 30 years ago.
So he kind of lived near that site. And so I can't remember why I think they're just going around knocking on the doors, trying to.
Yeah, I was trying to remember why they were talking to them too.
Yeah.
The Shepherds.
The Shepherds. But
their son Jack Shepard had died 30 years ago.
Well, at least the father will come back later, which is, interesting. And anyway, so, and so they continue on, and now like John's like, okay, I got to talk to Dad again.
Yeah,
right. And he gets there. They get back. It's like, hey, Dad, like, how's Mom? It's like, oh yeah, she's fine. She's okay. So we gotta talk. Like, we did something that changed the past. It's like I get these new memories. Like, and he's upset. It's like oh, he's like, Mom died. It's like what? She like died, like just died right like in your timeline, like in 1999.
She died back in 69.
She died in 1969. It's like, but she's in the house right now. No, she is gonna die.
She's gonna die next week.
Days.
She's gonna die next week.
It's like, oh well, then like I'll take you and Mom, and we'll drive far away. Like, no,
because he's like, she's one of the victims of this Nightingale killer.
It's like, oh yeah, I've been hearing about that on the news. Like, I've been scared to death for your mother. It's like, yeah, no, like there were before, he had only killed 3 people and then he stopped. But now there are 10 victims. So like something we did changed the past that has changed this aspect. Like, think about what you did. It's like, oh, well, like after I got off,
I
like,
went and
oh,
I
I
saw
went, I
your
went to
mother
see
at
your
the
mom at the
hospital.
hospital. It's like, that's it. Because Chief, as when he went over to let mom know that you died,
And
and
she
she
took the
never
rest of
finished her
that day
shift.
off. She took the rest of that day off. And
And so he's thinking, like, okay, oh, well, okay, well, yeah, how about I just take both of you and we just get out of here? He's like, we
it's like,
can't do
we
that.
can't do that because now there are
There
more
are
victims that if we don't
victims.
do anything, then
They'll
we're going to
still
have to live
die.
with that. I mean, we're going to have to live with that for the rest of our lives.
It's like, and he's like, well, what can I do? I'm a firefighter. I don't know what to do. It's like, I'm a cop. This is what I do, right? Like, we both care about protecting people, about saving people. I care about, like, but, and he starts thinking about it. And he realizes, like, oh, wait, I've got all the case files. I know who the victims are, like, and what they were doing prior to being killed. So, right, what you could do is for the next victim, right, I know where she's going to be. And you can go there, try to, watch over her, direct her away, and then look out for anybody that's
Yeah.
suspicious.
And when she leaves, there's probably somebody who's going to be leaving with her. And
Yeah.
you can help me ID them.
Right? He's like, oh, Johnny, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Like, it's like that, Dad, you can do this. Trust me. Right? He's like, okay. So, like, Frank eventually agrees to do this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they tells him about the next victim, who would have been who is the fourth victim, right?
Yeah.
The fourth victim of the 10,
Yeah.
right? Who would have been the first victim
The first new
first
victim.
new victim, right?
Because up to this point, I mean, the first three had already been, the first three had already been killed up to this point.
Yep. So he tells her, he tells his dad what bar she went to the night right before the last place she was seen with her friends, right before she was murdered, right? And we forgot, like, he strangles his victims, right? They're all
Yeah.
strangled, right? And he said, like, he takes normally like a necklace from
Yeah.
them.
He
they're
normally
wearing,
takes
right?
some jewelry, some piece of jewelry from them
Yeah,
as a trophy.
that's his trophy, his jewelry, right? So he gets there and, like, he's just hanging out at the bar and he sees her walk in, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
bartender calls to her as she walks in,
Yeah. Because
right?
she's a regular
'Cause
there. They know her.
John
So
has the
she's,
pictures, right? Frank doesn't have the pictures, right?
yeah. So she's there with some of her friends.
Yep. And
They walk in, they get a
see him
table.
there they see him at the bar. He's got his Dennis Quaid smile.
Yeah, he's got his Dennis Quaid smile, his
He's got
leather,
his fire. He's
his
got
leather
his firefighter's jacket on,
like his leather jacket with a
right? So
fireman's
they're
patch
attracted
on
to
it.
him.
And it's like, yeah. And so, yeah, so the bartender walks
And
up,
so they
puts a
invite him
beer
over.
down in front of him. He's like, this is from the ladies over there.
That's right. They put it. It's like, oh, okay. He walks over again. He's got his Dennis Quaid smile,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So he
And they
walks
see
over,
the
and,
wedding
sits
ring.
down.
Like, oh, are you married, fireman? It's like, I am, but I'll sit down.
So he's just sitting there having a conversation, and then this guy is sitting over on a bar stool,
Yep.
just looking at him.
There's probably like 3 or 4 stools down from where he was sitting earlier.
This guy looks very familiar.
He does.
Because
he
the
doesn't have an
camera
oxygen
lingered.
mask on.
Nope. He doesn't have an oxygen mask on. He's not in a hospital bed. But he looks very familiar.
He's kind of scowling.
Just like that guy that was laying in the bed that the camera lingered on.
Do you think he's the killer?
That Julia saved his life because she stopped the doctor from mixing the drugs.
He's the killer, isn't he?
He might be. He might be. Maybe the reason why the killing stopped at 3 before was because he died in the hospital bed. Because that doctor mixed Benadryl with whatever the other medication was. And it killed him.
So his dumbass rookie mistake actually saved people.
Yeah. Yeah. But Julia had to go and be a good nurse and catch the mistake and go and save his life. And how does he repay her? How does he repay her?
He strangles her. She just could have looked at that dude. You look at the dude like, No, you look like a serial
you look
killer.
like a serial killer. Yeah, I'm just gonna let you die,
let this
dude.
rookie kill you.
But no. So,
but they spend all night talking.
But he's sort of scowling at them, at Frank for disrupting his plan. And so, Frank goes home.
Chuck Norris rises out of the pint glass.
Yes.
Just anyway.
So then we have
he gets home.
Well, no, then it cuts to John in 99.
Oh, that's right. And he's looking. He's back.
He's back. He's looking through the files, and he doesn't see the one for that girl.
And he's talking to Satch. He's like, "Where's this one?"
Yeah, where's this file? And he's like,
"Victim number 4." Like, who? It's like, oh my goodness, he did it. He stopped it. And so then that's when we cut the next night when they had their conversation again. Right? It's like, Dad, I don't know what you did.
But you did it. You stopped it. You saved her life.
Like, oh, I didn't do anything. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, they invited me over and they just kept talking. I didn't feel like I should leave, so I just kept talking to them all night. But whatever he did, he got his attention off. He scared them off. But guess what? There's still 5 other victims.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of 10, there's 9. Right? So he tells him who the next victim is. Right? And so he shows up at that place as well. Right? And they're having that lovely conversation. Right? And at some point, Frank decides he needs to go take a leak.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes in the bathroom. And then we see that face.
Well, so
face.
So this other place. So the next victim is she moonlights as a cocktail waitress. After she gets off her job at the hospital, she goes.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's what it is.
So he goes. He sends Frank to the club where she works. And so
that's what it is.
He's there and he's sort of chatting her up. Like she's waiting on him, right? She's his server, and when her shift ends, as she's walking by, she's like, "Hey, don't be so quiet next time." Just kind of flirting with him a little bit.
Yeah, typical thing.
And so she, walks out, and he follows her, and she goes to walk upstairs because her apartment is right upstairs. And so as she goes upstairs, he goes into the bathroom.
But he gets followed by that creepy dude
mm-hmm.
that we saw earlier. It's like, you're following me, and then he just punches him out, right? And this bathroom is basically like a urinal and a stall and a sink.
Yeah, I think there's 2 stalls. Yeah, 2 stalls, a urinal and a sink, and
like he's on the ground and like he's kind of like laying near one of the stalls.
Well, no, the guy knocks him out
that's right.
onto the ground.
Yes, that's right.
And he takes his wallet out of his. I think he took his wallet.
And he's like Mary Fernelli, which was the name of the one that he saved earlier.
Yeah, and then he runs off, and this guy is standing there, and he turns to his buddies, and he's like, "I think he took his wallet." But no, he before he punches him, he comes in, he's like, "What are you following me or something?" And Frank just says Mary Finelli. And that sets this guy off, and he just attacks Frank. And knocks him out, takes his wallet out of his pocket, then takes his driver's license out of it, and then tosses the wallet over to the toilet.
Tosses the wallet. These 2 other guys come in. He's like, "Oh, and dude, what's going on with him?"
He gets on his back, and he's about to strangle him.
Oh, yes.
He takes out a Garrett, and he starts to put it around his neck, and then these 2 guys walk in, and so he real quick puts the Garrett away, and they're like, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" He's like, "Oh, he took a little bit too much of a ride.
All this liquor."
He's like, he's having a bad trip. He's like, "Oh, I know that. I know how that is."
This is 1969.
And so he's like, "Here, help me get him over here." So they help him. They help the guy pick up Frank, and they move him over to the toilet where he's like, he just needs a little bit of time with the porcelain.
He'll be fine.
So they move him into the stall and just dump him on the floor. And then the guy leaves. And then Frank wakes up. A little while later. And, he gets up and he realizes what happened. So he runs up to the apartment where this girl lives.
Banging on the door.
Saying,
and this old
police.
lady comes out like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
it's okay. I'm a police officer.
Mm-hmm. He's like, Mary Finelli, open up. This is the police. And the door's not open. So he takes out his credit card and he, breaks in. Like he's able to use his credit card to break into the door.
And you look at it and you can tell a struggle has happened.
Yeah, you can tell a struggle has happened in this apartment. The window's open. And he goes and he walks around the bed and he sees her laying down.
She's strangled. Her shirt's been ripped open, right? She's strangled.
Just like the crime scene photo that we saw earlier.
Yes.
And
so he decides, I need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves.
And he goes and, then he's talking to John on the radio. He's like, hey, John, I couldn't do it. I couldn't save her. I was too late. And John's like, it's okay. It's okay, Dad. You did your best. You did, you did everything you could. Yourself. You did everything you could.
And meanwhile, we hear the rest of his family start talking. And then so John's like, oh, wait. Come over here. And he calls Julie over. And little Johnny. And Gordo. Right? And Julia's talking like, oh, hey, John. Yeah, how's it going? It's like, they start talking. It's like, he says something about his mother. It's like, oh, it sounds like you have a really smart mother. It's like, oh, yeah, I do. I hope she knows how proud I am of her and how much she loves her, how much I love her. It's like, well, no,
she knows. All mothers know. Even if you don't say it all the time.
And she looks at little Johnny.
Yeah, she kisses him on the head.
And he says, hi, John. It's like, and all it's like, oh my goodness, my little self is talking to me.
So he's talking to himself on the radio.
Right? And then little Johnny goes off and it's like, I'll be right back, John. I'm gonna tuck Johnny in.
And then Gordo,
they leave Gordo there.
Gordo wants to talk to him. He's like, I want to talk to the radio now. And Frank's like, okay, come on up. He sets him up in the chair and
he's like, Gordo, my name is Santa Claus.
First off, Gordo is like, this is Earth calling.
That's right.
Calling from the Federation planet Earth.
It's a very late 60s science fiction serial, right?
He's like, Gordo. He's like, how do you know my name? He's like,
because I'm Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. And I'm going to give you the best Christmas present you'll ever get.
It's like, how I give you my list?
Yeah, he's like, no, well, maybe I should give you my address then.
Oh, that's my address.
He's like, no, don't worry about it. I know.
I'm Santa Claus. I know everything. It's like, no.
I have something. I need to remember the one word.
One word.
You need to remember it for the rest of your life. Just remember this one word. He's like, okay, what's that? It's a magic word. It's a magic word like abracadabra. It's like
Yahoo.
What is it? Yahoo.
It's like Yahoo? It's like
Yahoo.
Go and write it down.
Go write it down. He's like, okay, thanks, Santa.
I'm glad they brought some levity into it, right?
Yeah.
So things kind of continue, and then so we kind of continue a little bit with the investigation, and John cross-references diaries of the victims, right? The first victim and the I think anyway.
Yeah, so
he finds three names.
Three names of people.
One of them's already
classmates.
dead.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes,
3 classmates whose names are mentioned in the diary multiple times, and so he narrows it down to it's one of these 3 people. One's already dead, or maybe 2 of them are already dead.
I think once whatever it is, but he gets down to where it's really only one potential possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings this person in for questioning.
And so he's got him in the interrogation room.
Yep.
And he's asking him about these murders. And the guy, he's acting like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yep.
So John starts getting kind of upset, and he pulls his gun out, takes the magazine out, takes the bullet out of the chamber, puts it all down on the table.
This guy's like, what's
going
on
here? Puts his badge
here?
down on the table. And he gets up, picks up that file folder full of pictures, full of crime scene photos from the killings. And he just starts, so, you remember her? He tosses the picture
and
of one of the victims down.
And this guy's like, he's repulsed.
And he's like, he is repulsed. And he's like, why are you showing this to me? He's like, he starts rapid fire, just toss him. He's like, does this mean anything?
Finally gets down to his mother's file.
And what about this one? Does that mean anything to you?
Something to me.
Yeah. He's like, does that one mean anything to you? Because she means something to me. And Satch,
at this point, it's like Satch is like, Satch to realize he needs to stop this.
Mm-hmm. So Satch goes in and he pulls him out.
He's like, it's not him. And John's just like, it's like, no, like just because he doesn't want to look at the photos, right?
I mean, he's not him.
Not everyone fits that profile.
Satch is like, no, you've had him in there for this long, and he hasn't said anything. He hasn't revealed anything. It's not him.
It's not him.
He would have talked by now. So John reluctantly, lets it go, and they release the guy. And what happens next? Then they're talking on the radio again, and this time they're interrupted by Satch.
Yep,
showing
this
up
is
at
like the
Frank's
daytime
door.
now. It's the daytime,
mm-hmm.
and Satch's partner show up at the door. Yeah. Right, Julie answers like I need to talk to John. Frank.
And Julie's like, well, what? Why? No, yeah, that's right. She's like, what's going on? And it's like, I need to talk to Frank, and
the
Frank hears Frank hears everything that's going on.
The deciding game of the World Series has just started.
Well,
right, and Gordo and Johnny are in the living room. They're just watching the game,
mm-hmm.
right? And so Frank finally decides to go outside and talk with Satch. She's like, I need to come with me. It's like, where were you last night? Like, why do you want to know? That kind of you can tell like Frank knows something's
mm-hmm.
up. That Satch is there with his partner.
Yeah, and he's questioning.
And he can tell by Satch's demeanor
that this isn't a friendly conversation. He didn't come out to hang out and watch the game.
So finally, Frank's like, all right, let me just go in and tell Julia that I'm going down with you. I'll be home later. It's going to be okay. Right? And so he kind of reluctantly agrees, so let's let him go in and say that, right? But he goes in and he talks on the radio first.
Yeah.
It's like, John, like they're suspecting me and doing all this. Right? And Satch realizes too long. He tries to come in, and this little scuffle ensues in the little office area where they have the radio.
But before all this, before we get to visit by Satch, he's talking because that's right. I think it was the night before when they were talking about Frank not being able to save the girl.
Right.
Then he mentions that he took his wallet. And John is like, "Oh, he touched your wallet.
I have his fingerprints.
That's great.
Like
you have his fingerprints."
Like, of course, so Frank's like, what? It's like, no, like, give me the wallet.
Have his prints.
Like,
very carefully take the wallet out of your pocket, put it into one of those plastic bags to keep the extra transistors in. And
it's like, and then like, where is it?
And
where can you hide this that no one's gonna find? And he's like,
he's like, the window seat. There's a loose board on the left. And
it's like, okay.
I was like, okay, great. So he runs over the window seat. Frank runs over the window seat, pulls out that loose board, puts it in there, puts the loose board back. John opens up the window seat, opens up that loose board, and there's the wallet. So he's like, we got it. We got him. We're going to be able to ID him now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so then it's the next day when they're talking, and John had had them run the prints, and it came back to Jack Shepard.
Jack Shepard, yes.
The name of this cop that had died 30 years ago, and from their conversation earlier with his parents.
Who's now a retired cop.
Who's now a retired cop. Alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have positive ID. And so he tells him that. He tells Frank that before Satch comes in. And then, Satch comes and interrupts the conversation and all that.
And then eventually the scuffle ensues and the radio falls on the ground. Again, we kind of get that slow motion falling. Yeah. Right? And it knocks some of the transistors loose. And
at the same time, on John's end, he knocks a baseball off the table, off the desk, and it's falling.
That's right.
And so everything falls in tandem in this movie.
Yes.
And so this baseball falls at the same time that the ham radio is falling, that Frank's ham radio is falling, and the ham radio crashes on the floor just as the ball hits the floor. And then we see John's ham radio, the future version of Frank's, just spark, and like all these sparks and everything start flying because he's still got the cover off from it, from when they were getting it to work again earlier, when Gordo was getting to work. And so the radio stops working. And so Satch takes Frank to the precinct, takes him into a little room.
And before that happens, I've been trying to remember where this scene happens, because we have a scene where John goes back to the house with that couple, or the dad.
Yeah,
he's talking about Jack.
Yeah, because he goes back because he's trying to find out where Jack is, and they find out that Jack's mother.
And he sees this picture on the wall of his mother, this woman in a nurse's outfit. And it looks like this is a picture from like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's Jack's mom.
She died back in the 60s.
She died. She was murdered. They never found
the killer.
And then it connects with him because he looks up the case on it and realizes that
she was
a different MO.
Yeah.
That she was a Nightingale, but he had to switch the MO because, right? Because then he ends up confronting Jack, like at this bar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh hey, like oh Jack, like it's like, oh yeah, I'm a cop too. Like, yeah, I worked at. I've heard of you though. And he starts showing Jack at this bar these pictures. Like, he changed your MO. Because if they knew
that your mother was one of the Nightingale, they would have come right to you. They would have looked at family and they would have found you.
So you changed, right? Which is why, like, the bones they found earlier was not the first. His mother is the first, right? And I love how Jim Caviezel looks at him. He's like, "It's like you're going down 30 years ago. You just don't know it yet."
Yeah, you went down 30 years ago. You just don't know it yet. I love that.
But anyways, so we cut back to the precinct, like you said.
And so Satch has brought Frank into a little interview room.
Yeah,
and just the next room over, there's a bunch of cops watching the game.
They're watching the game. And Satch is trying to have this conversation both as a cop, but also as a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's like...
He's trying so hard to find some way that Frank was not guilty.
But, like, they found his license on the victim.
They found his license underneath the victim's
body. And
body.
He's ID'd there, right? But, like, he can't see how he's connected to the other parts of it. It's like, they're going to make you for this one, which will then connect you to the rest of these Nightingales. It's like, I need you to give something. I need you to give me something. So it's like, he spills everything about, like, how he's talking with little Johnny, the little chief, 30 years in the future. And of course, Satch doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
Right? So he starts telling him about everything happens in this exciting game.
There's this little window that is between the two rooms where all the officers are watching the game, and then they're in this little interview.
So he can kind of hear the TV.
Yeah, he can hear the TV
between the rooms.
Okay, so just go in there, watch the game. Here's what happens. The next inning, it's what, the bottom of it's like the fourth, fifth inning. Well, at the bottom of the 6th inning, the ball is going to go hit
This is going to happen.
Shoe, and it's going to get shoe polish on it, and then they're going to call it shoe polish play and all this.
All this is going to be right. It's like,
and then this guy's going to get a home run.
I can't go to anyone about this.
He's like, just go watch the game.
Just go.
And when you're
like,
done
whatever,
watching
and then his partner comes in.
If it
like,
doesn't
his
happen,
wife is here. His wife is here. He wants to talk with you. She wants to talk with you. It's like, okay. So he leaves and he and Julia, he's like, you know what, Julia? Let's go grab something to eat. Mm-hmm. So they go to this little diner that's just down the street from the precinct.
So they're sitting down there talking.
And as they're leaving, Jack Shepherd.
Yes, Jack Shepherd comes in.
It's like, oh, I heard he had like potential ID for the Nightingale. Like he's like this perp in this robbery that I'm like working on. But a potential perp for this robbery that I'm working on. Like, mind if I talk with him? Like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's down in the interrogation room, whatever, right? And so, but as he's going in, Satch's partner sees him walking in and asking about it. And Satch's partner doesn't want anyone else messing with one of his own perps.
Yeah.
And so he kind of confronts him about, it's like, no, it's okay. No, it's about some other thing or whatever. It's like, oh. And then he goes in and like right away, like Frank causes a scene about this. And they take him out. It's like, oh, okay. So I didn't mean to upset anything or whatever. Right. And so he's kind of listening to the game as everybody else is just listening to the game. And Frank, though, he's now unfurling a plan. Because he is now using his knowledge of fire.
Yep. Well,
meanwhile,
first, Jack does come in, and he sort of attacks Frank.
Right.
And then
that's when the partner comes. That's when the partner
comes in. He's
away.
like, "Why are you in there?" And and he pulls him away. And
that's right. And so then they kind of stay in the other room with the game.
Yeah. So this is when Frank decides to play with fire.
We do get. You see, here's the thing: we do get fire play in this movie.
Yes, we do.
Beyond just being about fire, we have someone MacGyvering their way through a situation. So while that's going on, though, we cut to this little diner where you have Satch talking with Julia. It's like, how
he doesn't play with fire. He doesn't play with fire just yet. So first he plays with electricity.
No. Anyway, so while he's setting up his experiment with electricity and fire, his trap.
So he pulls the
little diner.
He pulls the cord out of the AC unit in the window, and he goes. There's a circuit box, the circuit breaker box, or a fuse box in the wall, and he goes and hooks the.
Plus,
the wires
they're kind enough to have given him cigarettes.
Yeah.
So he's playing with this. Satch is at the diner with Julia.
And Julia,
he's just like, "Hey!"
They get a little bit into the conversation, and then Julia stops him. She's like, "Hey, Satch, why are you talking to me like a cop?"
It's like, yeah, she's like, she's trying to cut through the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if I was as a cop, I wouldn't be sitting with you right now. It's like, and he's like, "Well, tell me about this guy." It's like, where was he last night? And like talking about kind of the victims, right? It's like, how are you tell, and then he says, like, well, how are you talking about this guy, John, that he's talking to? I was like, oh, John, no. He's like, oh, he says he's talking to Johnny on the, like, no, it's John.
And he's like, no, he says he's talking about Johnny, your son.
Like, oh, no, you're mistaken. It's John. It's like, no. And they're kind of going back and forth about how she knows her husband's talking to this guy named John. And he's saying, like, oh, he's claiming it's just your son, Johnny, as an adult. And she doesn't believe, like, that's not my son.
And right? Meanwhile, in the background, at this diner, they're playing the game. They're playing a baseball game. And so he hears this stuff about the shoe polish play and all this.
He's hearing about this, and then he's hearing how she's responding to this. Like, she's actually thinking that this guy that is just some random guy named John, not her son, Johnny. And not her son. So she's confused about all of it, and then all of a sudden, like Satch is slowly piecing together like what might be happening, and then as you're saying, like he's putting this together with the game being on the TV. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, stop, 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 stop!" And it's like, "Why are you telling me to stop? I'm talking to you. You're just a man. You're talking to a woman, and you just care about your sports ball." And all of a sudden, he starts smiling because like every this crazy play that
Yeah,
Frank just talked about
that was
20 minutes
impossible to
ago
happen. Just happened.
just happened. To cut back to the precinct, right? And then, you know, they go, you know what? How okay, do you want to go back and talk to him? The
Yeah.
partner's like, oh,
So
yeah, whatever.
yeah. So Jack walks back over there. He opens up the door, and Frank is just sitting there at the table
So we got,
smoking a
we had a
cigarette.
cup of coffee also,
Yes, and he had so
which he
he
poured
had
on
he
the
had
floor.
connected the wires from the AC unit to the fuse box, and then also hooked one to the door, and then one to the little the metal cage, to ground it. And so it goes from the fuse box. One wire goes and grounds on the cage. The other goes over to the doorknob. And he took his cup of coffee, and he just poured it out on the floor right by the door. And so when Jack comes and opens the door, he opens it up and he's holding on to the doorknob. Frank's just sitting there, and he smiles and he just tosses the other end of that wire. And Frank or Jack, when he steps in the puddle of coffee.
It's like, oh, he's like, I'm sipping coffee. Ugh.
Like, what the hell? And so he tosses the wire, and it lands right in that puddle. And as soon as it does, Jack, because he's still holding onto that doorknob, he gets a shock.
And it jolts through him. Like, oh.
It jolts through him, and he just drops to the floor unconscious.
Mm-hmm. And so now Frank decides to look at his license and see where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he gets out of the water, he gets his license.
Well,
and then
he goes and he gets a little he gets an aerosol can.
Yep, he goes up to the little sprinkler head.
Makes a little flamethrower.
Who knew Dennis Quaid could be a badass?
I think we all kind of knew it. I mean, he was in Dragonheart.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway.
But he was also backed up by a Sean Connery voiced dragon in that. So.
Yeah. Yes, he was. So anyway, makes a little fire. The sprinklers go off, and it just goes off in the entire precinct. So everyone starts leaving because the door's open now. He casually walks out, right? And he decides to go to Jack's apartment, right? And he gets in there, and he's looking around, and he finds this closet, and there's a little board, little little board that's loose above his closet.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls it down, and he finds this little box.
This cigar box.
That's where he finds,
and it's full of
all these
trophies,
jewelry, necklaces, trophies, right? And so he takes it all out. So he takes it out. He walks down. He gets out, and as he's getting down,
Jack back.
Walks into the apartment,
and he sees him and pulls out his gun and shoots at him. And so Frank is running toward the window.
Yep. So he jumps out the window.
He goes, as he's running through the house, Jack shoots him, and he hits this box. He shoots this box, and so
the box
there's a big hole in it.
all
so
those
Frank
mementos, all those trophies just kind of scatter.
Yeah. So Frank drops the
on
box
the floor
and goes out the window, and
Jack is concerned with following Frank.
Yeah.
So right. So they go out and they're running through these streets. And as they're doing this, Satch and his partner come up to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they see those
Yeah,
everything's
they see
scattered.
everything scattered, and they realize that those are the trophies from the victims.
Yes.
So now Satch is fully convinced that Frank was telling the truth.
Yes. So they follow out, and like Jack's eventually able again, you know, they're in Queens, they're near the water, right? And they kind of go to this little pier area, and he ends up kind of hiding under like the
Yeah,
boards of this little boardwalk.
yeah. So
And
he hides under the pier, right?
yeah,
And and
and Jack's looking around, so he's trying to find out
I
where he
guess it's
went.
a dock. It's a little dock. It's not quite a
Little
pier.
dock, yeah, little dock,
It's a
yeah.
little dock, and yeah. So Jack's looking around trying to see him, and Frank is under it, and the slats in the dock are just wide enough that he can reach his hand up through.
He was just hand just up, yeah, and he
So
just pulls him down.
he pulls Frank down into the water, and so they're fighting, and Frank's able to knock the gun out of Jack's hand, so that falls down to the bottom of the river, and then Frank's able to get the upper hand, and he basically causes Frank to pass out, or causes Jack to pass out
Pass out.
underwater.
And he comes up
And so he kind of just
on back to
leaves
his
him
little
there.
dock. And as he gets out of the water, right, he's soaking wet, is when Satch and his partner come running up. And you can hear off in the distance everybody screaming and yelling because the Mets just won the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Right. And so, right. And then we have this little scene where you have like these boats where they're searching for Jack, but they don't find a body. Right?
Yeah. You know, Frank
So now we
goes.
cut back.
Frank goes home, and Julia's happy to see him. And
He's happy to see him. He's happy to see little Johnny. And then he gets out his toolbox because he needs to repair this radio because he needs to talk with his son.
Yep.
Right. And little Johnny's there. He says good night. Right. And then Julia texts him and she comes back and gives him his cigarettes. Right. And before he starts working on it, he looks at the cigarettes,
crumples them up, and throws them
crumbles
in the
it up,
trash.
and throws it in the trash. And he does his thing. And, we cut back to 1999 and, we have John. He's just sitting there, doesn't know what to do. He's looking at this broken ham radio. And then slowly,
and he falls asleep.
Itself.
He falls asleep.
Also, he falls
desk.
asleep. That's right. After he falls asleep, is when we had the shot where it slowly repairs itself.
It repairs itself. Because it repairs
and
itself.
And then he gets woken up by his dad's voice.
Mm-hmm. And then so they're talking, and
it's like, oh yeah, I stopped him. They brought me in. He tells everything that happened that afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And John's like, I just don't get it. Like,
why are you still not
here?
here?
He's saying like, nothing feels like anything has changed.
Yeah, you and
Mom
Mom
look at these pictures.
Here.
Mom is still not in this picture.
And then
what are you talking about?
In both
we cut to
times,
the bed. We cut to the bedroom in 1969. Right? Julia has gone to bed.
Yeah, Julia's in bed. So we haven't gotten So we don't quite get to the bedroom yet. We cut to in both 1969 and 1999. Jack goes into the house.
Okay.
He goes into the Sullivan house. In 1999, he attacks John. In 1969, he attacks Frank.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, no, well, how it happens is
because he handcuffs Frank to the little doorway to the den where the radio is. Then he goes up to the bedroom.
Oh, that's right. That happens first. That's right.
Yeah, because he's got to incapacitate Frank first.
That makes sense. Yes.
So he goes.
That's right.
He handcuffs
and then we
Frank
cut to the bedroom.
And then cut to the bedroom, and Julia's in bed, and Jack comes in through the door. She thinks it's Frank.
She hears something. At first, it's Frank, but then realizes pretty quickly, like, that's not Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets on top of her, like he's about to assault her.
Yeah.
Right. But little Johnny has heard this, and he walks in and sees what's going on. Right. And now we're cutting to the scene where in 1969 he's assaulting Julia. In 1999, he's assaulting John.
Yeah. So he's got
Right.
John, but John's got a gun now because he's adult John and he's a cop. So he's got a gun,
Right.
And Jack's got a gun,
Right.
and so then he knocks Jack's gun out of his hand, and so Jack gets a hold of John's gun.
That's
and
right.
He's got him pinned down on the floor.
But now we're back in 1969, and like again, we're in that bedroom, and little Johnny has come in, right? And Julia sees this, right? And I mean, Jack sees this, and he turns away from Julia for a second,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's able to get some strength, and
she brings her hand up. She scratches
she
him down the side of
claws
the
at
face.
him.
Like she claws the side of his face.
He gets chunks of skin out of his face.
And then it cuts to 1999 Jack, and all of a sudden these scars show up on his face.
And this is enough to startle him. Like all of a sudden, like he can't quite understand why all of a sudden he has these scars going down his face. So this is enough for John to
get the upper hand. And he gets him off of him, and Jack goes after his gun that had been kicked across the room, but John is able to stop him from getting to it.
Right. So Julia and little Johnny really kind of get to kind of a little bit of a safety, and like Jack has really kind of
Frank.
Jack has got himself loose from being handcuffed to this,
So Frank has been able to. He had a little box of his tools that he was using to fix the radio up on the desk, and he was just close enough to be able to get his foot up there and knock the box off the desk so he could get a screwdriver and pick the lock on the handcuffs.
Yep.
And so Julia and little Johnny come running down the stairs, and Frank comes down after him. Right. Jack comes down after him, and now Frank has his shotgun.
Right, and then he all of a sudden he grabs Johnny. And he's just holding Johnny with one arm, like, Frank, like, no, you don't want to do this. Like, I'll shoot him. I have no problem shooting a boy in the head.
Yeah. And so Frank, this shotgun that we introduced earlier.
Yep.
In the crate, in the trunk. Frank's got it, and he agrees. He goes to put the shotgun down because he doesn't want anything to happen to his son.
No, of course not.
And meanwhile, in 1999, Jack has once again gotten the upper hand, and he is on top of John, and he's strangling him. Mm-hmm. He's got his hand on his throat, and so back to 1969. Jack sort of throws Johnny aside and lunges at Julia and Frank. And Frank is able to raise that shotgun up and
shoots.
Jack comes down and he grabs the muzzle of that barrel.
Yeah.
Right. And as he grabs that, Frank pulls the trigger and his hand is gone. Jack's hand it disappears. Like it just gets blown off of his hand or off of his arm.
1969 Jack decides to get out of there.
So 1969 Jack decides to get out of there, and it cuts to 1999 Jack, and he's still holding on. He's holding on to John's neck, but then his hand starts shriveling up.
It disappears. And he's like, "What's happening here?"
And so that sort of surprises, shocks him, and he gets back, and John gets
as it would.
Yeah, if your hand just disappears, that would be surprising. So John knocks him off of him, and he gets up and sort of runs over to the hall area. And meanwhile, so Jack picks up the gun off the floor with his other hand. And he's about to shoot Jack. Or he's about to shoot John.
John, yes.
And then we hear that shotgun again.
And we hear boom.
Well, first all of the furniture and everything changes in the house.
No, everything changes. Yeah, you see this whole
house, the whole way that the house is decorated all changes. Yeah, it looks more modern. And then we hear that shotgun. and it fires, and Jack, gets shot. 1999 Jack gets shot and, falls dead on the floor.
And Jack,
and then it pans up
Johnny
from the shotgun.
Johnny gets up. He looks like he's looking around about what's just happened.
Mm-hmm. And the camera pans from the shotgun up, and we see an older Dennis Quaid.
Yep. He's just with that shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
And then Johnny's like, Dad. He's like, little chief.
He's like, I'm still here, Chief.
Grace. I'm still here.
I'm still here, Chief.
And now, this entire movie, we've had father and son talking to each other, adult father and son talking to each other, right? They get to hug again. Because as far as like, this is like the moment, really, that little Johnny has been waiting for 30 years, is to hug his dad again.
Yeah.
Right? He has he's had these memories that he did this, right? His dad was there, but he also had these memories of it not happening. And he's enjoyed the conversation, but he doesn't need the radio anymore.
Nope.
His dad is there. He can hug him again.
Yeah.
Right?
And then we get a little montage.
This nice little montage. Because, again, this is about family.
Yeah. And so they're out playing baseball with all their friends. And
Satch is there. It's the entire neighborhood again.
Julie is there. So we see that they were able to save her.
Yes. Julie is there. And then his girlfriend from earlier in the movie is now his wife.
She's now pregnant.
They already have a child. She's pregnant with another child.
Yeah. So this is, an alternate.
Which is gotta be a super trip for him.
He just suddenly has a kid and another one on the way.
Memories that he's had this kid, and he has to try to remember these things about this wife that he has now.
And then somebody hits the ball and it goes over the fence, and
it hits
Gordo starts freaking out. He's like, "Not the Benz, not the Benz!" And he runs out there, and the ball hits the headlight on a Mercedes, on a brand new Mercedes Benz.
It's like, Gordo, you're rich. You're Yahoo rich. You can replace that headlight easily.
And so Gordo goes out and he gets the ball, and he looks upset, and he throws it back, and then turns around, and then it shows the license plate, and it says 1 Yahoo. And we have a nice song and music going on, and we kind of get this little montage now. And I had forgotten now that. So Garth Brooks starts playing.
Yes,
Garth Brooks music starts playing. I had forgotten that he wrote this song for this movie.
I did not realize that.
Yeah,
yeah.
And like the music video for it is basically just scenes from the movie.
And really, all the stuff we have now, like we've stopped from having a little montage of this baseball game, is just clips from the family's life together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
before
they got that Mustang, and just different little.
There's things over the washing the Mustang,
basically like
having a water hose fight,
little home movies.
There's a freak gasoline fight accident.
Yes, we need to do that movie sometime. But no, it's basically like it's like a montage, like the opening credits for the Wonder Years.
Yes, exactly.
Just a bunch of little home movies,
and it works.
Growing up, while Garth Brooks is playing,
it's nice. Again, we talked about Fallen, which is similar to this movie, but Fallen did not have a happy ending.
Fallen had a very not happy ending.
This movie has a happy
very
ending.
Bleak ending. This one has a very happy ending. Everybody is rescued. Everybody is alive.
Is it a little contrived? Yes, but we get to this end and it's earned. And you're happy for all of them. You're happy about it.
Earned a happy ending.
Yeah. It's like, because again, it's this nice movie about family and friendship.
Yeah.
And community. And you get to it and you're happy about it. Like, it's thrilling. You get sit on the edge of the seat a little bit. And you get there, you're relieved. You're glad the bad guy had to watch his hand get blown off in 1969 and 1999.
The effects that they did on that hand were incredible.
They're really good, yes.
Like that was like Jurassic Park level CGI. that they did on his hand.
Oh yes, much better than CGI. CGI that came 2 years later on Dwayne Johnson and
Mm-hmm.
The Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
But give it up to give it to Sean Doyle. He played. He's the actor here as Jack Shepherd, and he's not a huge name that we know, right? He's a character actor, but he does really well in this role. He's kind of lesser known than the ones we mentioned, but um, yeah, he should be commended for his work in this as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it ends in a nice, happy note, and yeah, it's a good movie.
It is. It's a very good movie. I really enjoyed watching this one.
I really enjoyed watching it again. I want to see it again. I'd like to show Charles sometime soon.
Yeah.
It's a good movie for teenagers to watch. It's a PG-13 movie, right? And yeah, it's a good solid movie. It's not movie. They don't make a lot of movies in this vein anymore. We've talked about this before, right? Yeah. Again, this is not a Chuck Norris movie.
No.
There's no one having nightmares about Chuck Norris in this movie. Now, Jack Shepherd might actually have nightmares about Chuck Norris. And if he lived through this movie, he'd probably have nightmares about Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, after, maybe between 69 and 99, he had nightmares about Dennis Quaid.
I mean, given what happens, he probably should have nightmares.
After Dennis Quaid blew off his hand with a shotgun, he probably started having nightmares about him.
Yeah, it's again like it's probably had to stretch your imagination with this movie a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, don't even attempt to try to think of all the butterfly effect sort of results of everything that goes on in this movie.
That can happen.
Just don't think about that.
But that's why this movie works, though, because like they allow you to get sucked into the story well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because the direction's good.
Very, very good.
The overall story is good. And yeah, the characters are good. And then the acting is really good, right? And then, like you said, like the small, like the visual effects, the subtle effects, even before, the big effect obviously is like, yeah, the hand getting blown off, right? It's one of the huge effects. But then there's other small effects, like writing on the desk and then it appears, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff works really well to get you sucked into it. Like, it's the music within it, the sound, the costumes. It's a good production value that allows you to go with the story and not get too bogged down. Like, oh, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all. I mean, that's my. I don't know if I have anything else to say. But other than like, I actually kind of want to watch it again soon.
I do too. It's one of those movies that it's worth rewatching.
It sneaks up on you.
You pick up on things. You pick up on things the more you watch it.
We even forgot about like that first conversation. Like again, like it's this little like sunroom where they are, and they have these glass doors and panes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when Frank's getting up,
first conversation, we forgot they have a dog.
Yeah,
right?
There's a Dalmatian.
And so he goes to sing the of course it's Dalmatian.
Yeah, he goes to sing the baseball song to Johnny.
And the dog kind of gets in his way.
And he trips a little bit.
He hits into one of the panes.
And it cracks the glass.
And that wasn't there before.
In 99, now there's a crack in that window.
And the only reason like that only happened is because like he wasn't supposed to have that conversation. There was no one there, and so he wasn't going to be distracted. Right? Little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just the design of the house, these things. Yeah. Anyway, it's worth a watch.
Yeah,
and a rewatch.
Yeah. So, which I think that's all I got.
Okay. Good.
So yeah, watch it if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth a watch. If you have seen it, watch it again. You pick up
Watch
more
it
things on the
again.
rewatch than you can see the first time. It's one of those movies where there's just so much to consider with it, so much to think about.
Yes.
But all that, science and everything that goes into it, it doesn't bog the story down at all. And yeah. But anyway, so yeah, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go ahead and check us out on our social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. It is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out. A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like the name of the podcast. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And you can also go to our Letterboxd and see some of the reviews we've done on various movies. Some we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, C-I-N-E Adventure. And you can also just send us an email. Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure at gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out. A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like the name of the podcast. But yeah, let us know what you thought of Frequency. Should we do more movies like this?
Yeah.
Were you aware of Frequency before we decided to do it on the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Let us know. We want to hear from you. And go to our social media, give us a like and a follow. Go to your favorite podcast app wherever you're listening to us. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and the recommendations and the search, all that stuff. Because we want to be able to reach out to as many of you as possible that want to hear us ramble on and on about these movies.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so next time, Tony, there is a particular holiday that's coming up.
There is a particular holiday coming up.
What holiday is that?
Well, we are getting close to May. And May is the time for flowers. And when I think about flowers, I think about my mother.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mother's Day is always a wonderful holiday to celebrate Mom.
Yes, it is.
Because moms need to be celebrated.
Yes, they do. Moms do so much.
I love my mom. I love my wife, who is a great mom. Right?
And I love my mom.
Moms do a lot.
If I had a wife, I would love my wife. If I had kids, I would love the mother of my kids.
Right, exactly.
But I do not have a wife or kids, so
I love all those mother figures.
Yes.
They bake such delicious treats, don't they?
They do. They do.
They, if you skin your knee, they make it feel better.
Yeah, they do. They do. Nothing heals a skinned knee like a mother's kiss.
That's right. So we celebrate Mother's Day. And when I think about Mother's Day, and I think about movies, there's not a lot of Mother's Day movies, right? You're not,
there's not a whole lot of Mother's Day movies.
No, there's not.
There's one in particular that we want to talk about that really shows how much a boy can love his mother.
How much
and how devoted a boy can be to his mother.
I agree with that. And this movie is a movie by Alfred Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm. It is. What movie is it,
And that
Tony?
movie is Psycho.
We are going to be talking about Psycho next time for our special Mother's Day episode. So, if you have not seen it, you got time to watch it. If you have seen it, maybe check it out again.
Check it out again, but be prepared.
But yeah, so join us next time for Psycho.